Last time on Lawful Stupid.
Terrible things happened. Do we have to do a whole episode recap? Because we're going to do that. Basically, we are fucked in a bridge with demons.
Yeah, so this is going to be a different episode. Notice that the Great Shainsaw and the even greater Devin are not with us.
Nope, they are not here. It's just a one-on-one sesh.
That's right. It's the Rowan hour. It's all about Rowan. So we're going to talk about what happened in the last episode, and I think I'm going to go in and paint that picture. But basically what the boys ended up doing is gathering some soldiers and some heroes and Bindle from this cave that they had been retreated to from Oxbane, and they kind of charged right into the fucking center of all these monsters and all of Oxbane.
Yeah, we did a real dumb.
They say it had worked out well so far.
Well enough so far.
Yeah, I mean, I admire the bravery. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the scene from where we came from, and then we can kind of go into what we're going to do for the night.
Oh, yeah,
so,
I'm ready.
The picture painted. Atlas is holding Sharinga over the edge. Sharinga dangling over the black abyss. Two monstrosities standing, their horns, their large sword, towering over Atlas as he struggles to make sure Sharinga does not collapse or pummel. Pummel? No, that's not right. Anyways, illusion destroyed. Lance is pinned against the wall with one of these giant swords shoved in him. Rowan and his loot thankfully made that not a death scenario for now. One of the halflings was taken out. The other was incapacitated, I believe. And Luna, who was one from the Go Academy, is recovering from being beat up.
Yeah, it's real bad for everyone.
It is, and Kristoff is on the bridge, fighting, really close to the front line, and in fact, Rowan did too. Rowan ran up and his rapier and fighting and trying to break ground and get closer to these doors, and their plan was to swing them shut with Kristoff's catapult spell.
Mm-hmm.
In a last-ditch effort, Rowan strums across his broken lute.
It's shown, and so did the crack.
That's right. And when you did that, not only did the melody play, the same melody you're used to hearing when visions start up, the same melody you're used to hearing when you're activating your card-like powers, but this time it twanged. It sounded odd. It kind of broke in the air. Not when you strummed it, but the noise in the air broke. And you feel the world go grayscale. Everything around you turns black and white, with shades of gray in between. And you notice this intense scene of fighting back and forth, and people dying, and things getting wounded. And in fact, the way it froze, like there's blood still in the air. And you just notice it all freezes. It's so quiet that you don't hear air. It's just silence. And you hear soft footsteps coming from behind you.
Oh,
and as you turn around, because I assume you do.
Oh, yeah.
You see something you have never seen before. You see a tall, two-legged creature. It's bipedal. It's humanoid in form. But as it gets closer, you notice two things. Primarily, one, it's 20 foot tall.
Oh, God.
So it towers over you. And it stops 30 feet away from you. And the second thing you notice, and more importantly, is Its body is made of vines, bark, leaves. This thing is made of trees, essentially.
Huh.
It's got fingers, like a normal human would have. 4 fingers, 1 thumb on each hand, and a long tail. And you notice the tail is just hundreds of vines wrapped together as it swishes behind it. And it has large wings, like dragon-like wings, but made of tree branches and brush. And where its face should be, a normal human's face should be, there is a plain, simple mask made of bark with 2 eye holes that are glowing this soft, soft amber. And you hear this booming voice that says, Rowan.
Yes?
And he looks down, or it looks down, and it says, You broke my loot.
Well, I wouldn't say that I broke it. Maybe by happenstance. Did you say this is your loot?
And the giant humanoid bipedal tree figure steps forward. And you can't feel it, but you can just see and hear the footsteps and know that it's of magnitude when it walks. And as it gets closer, you notice it's shrinking until it stands at 12 feet. So it's taller than you, but not nearly as different in size. It gets closer and it bends down and looks at you and says, Yes, that is my loot.
Oh, God. Heart's race. When?
And he chuckles a little. Deep, dirty chuckle. Yes, my name is Wen, and you have let my loot become broken. Did you think it was an accident that the loot is called the loot of Wen, as you mortals on Goron call it?
I did not. But to be fair, I didn't know that they were true. I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on things, but I haven't had the most reliable sources.
And he says, What do you know about me, Rowan?
I'll just put my hand on my chin, thinking really hard. Findle said that you were the god of legends. Not just a god of legends, but the god of legends and stories. And that you put your mark on stories.
Findle is a wise man for someone who has seen so little. Yes, I mark legends and stories and tales. Now I see them for what they were and what they will be. And it's my job, no, it's my pleasure to make every legend great. All of the stories you've heard, they're mine. I am their creator. Everything that happens is because I allow it. Because it's a great story.
Well, then, God, fighting the Reclaimer? That's a great story. I'm sure you saw that.
I was pleased to see you and Kristoff stand up and protect my loot. And then he kind of leans in, turns his head sideways, and it's still you're seeing the simple bark mask until you used my loot as a shield.
Honestly, I thought that it would repel anything. That's my bust.
Yes. And that's most likely my fault. And he reaches out and he touches this lute. This lute that had been made of this beautiful wood. And it seems so fragile and so normal, despite its power and its magnitude that it's had over you and your friends. And when he touches it, it transforms. You notice the crack expand, and vines and leaves and bark grow all over the lute. You notice that the strings snap and they pop, and the neck of the lute itself almost cracks in two. But as it does, it breaks. There's a thick, stump-like material that builds between the crack in the neck. And the strings that were once there are now broken and gone. You notice these vines. They crawl from the neck of the lute down to the base, and they form and crawl and make these tight strings made of vine. And before you know it, the very lute that's in your hands, is now made of vine and bark and tree and grass and brush. And he says, "That's more appropriate for my lute."
I'm just completely taken aback by this. I guess instinctively the first thing I do is strum it a little bit.
And the first strum, it takes you back. You notice the world around you fall away. In fact, it falls away so quickly, you almost lose sensation. It's kind of like when you've ever been on, one of those rides where you go up and you go down and you just feel your stomach move before you do. That's the feeling Rowan gets.
Oh.
And Rowan's standing there holding this lute, and as this chord dances in the air, Wynn stands opposite him, and they're in the pitch black. And Wynn says, "I have something I need of you, Rowan. It is no accident that you found that lute."
What do you need, Wynn?
Before I ask this, let me show you what it's all been about.
Take me on a journey.
And you see in this black environment you're around, you see this bright mosaic window appear. Almost like a church window, right? Round at the top, flat at the bottom. And you see an elven man working on a roof. You see a human woman fishing in the river. And that's this one part stained glass mosaic window?
Mosaic.
Is that the right word? Mosaic window. The top being the elven man, the bottom being the human woman. And it flashes. And then the mosaic window reappears, and the two figures before are now embraced. And he says, "Even their meeting was my doing." And you see a tent down by Dawnstar River, a beautiful river. It was blue, so blue, and you can see it in the window pane. And so now you see the first stained glass window, which is an elven man and a human woman embracing, and then a next one appears to it in a circular arc, starting to build a circle around you. And you see a tent and Dawnstar River, and you see Rowan's parents, and you can see them holding a small baby.
Wynn, is this what I think it is?
And Wynn says, "This is you."
Oh, God. It's been so long.
And he says, You can't bury your story, no matter how hard you try. Someone is always there to tell it. And you see another window form. And it's a small boy. It's our young Rowan, and he's holding an instrument, and he's plucking at it. He doesn't know much of it, and it frankly wasn't his. It was another kid's. But he had always loved music because his mother sang. And you see further down on that mosaic, you see Rowan holding a shell pendant that his mother carved for him. And you see musical notes around his head. And you see at the bottom piece of that, you see his mother expecting. A bump formed on her stomach. And Wynn says, "At a young age, you put others before yourself."
What was I gonna do? They couldn't feed us all.
That was not your decision to make, Rowan.
Of course it was.
You were a child.
Even as a child, I could see my father starving so we could eat. And another one, they couldn't do it.
The next window here. And it shows Rowan in the forest picking berries. Some good for him, some not. You see a window of him throwing up, crouched behind bushes. And you see another small, dirty boy. And you see Rowan look at him and then look away. And the next frame of the window is the boy running away with Rowan's pendant in his hand. And funny enough, the bottom of that window shows the two laughing and holding hands. And Wynn says, "Rowan, it says much of your character that when someone slights you, you still manage to make a friend."
Well, you gotta make a living somehow. Donovan was not a good person.
Yes.
But you can still learn things from bad people.
And that is something you have found. Something you have carried with you. An ability to handle even all evil acts, despite what you must endure. You find the good in them. And you see another window pane appear, now starting to form a semicircle around you and Wynn. And as you're turning around to look, you see young Rowan, no more than 11 or 12, in a music hall. And he's listening to music. And you see him take a viol. And his friend, his young urchin friend, wants to sell it. And then we see them fight. And we see them walking away from each other. One heading down one road, one heading down the other. And Wynn says, "But somewhere along the line, Rowan, you decided that would no longer stand. That people's slights against you were more than you would bear."
No, his vision is too small. He's fine. It's just with petty crime and living off that. Why do that when you can have so much more?
And another window appears. And you see Rowan, older now, more mature. And he's playing for small crowds. And you can see some crying and some laughing and some enjoying himself. And then at the bottom of that window, you see a blonde-haired woman holding a book. And then you see Rowan, viol in hand, and the blonde-haired woman, book in hand. And the two are close to each other.
Oh, even this win, even this.
And he says, especially this. This more than anything else. This is the moment that I believe would forever change your path. And you see another window pane form, and it's their life. It's Rowan, and it's Rosalind, and you see music and money and laughter. You see a home. You see a warm home. And Wynn says, it must feel like hundreds of years have passed since then.
Oh, thousands. It's a different world.
And Wynn says, know that I am the god of legends. But I do not judge you for where you have been, only for where you choose to go.
Well, that's the thing. It's
and
everyone's been places. It's where you go is the only thing that matters.
And you see her leave with an older man who you know to be her father. And you see her carrying a stack of books and the hurt on Rowan's face as she leaves. And then you see a candle and a stack of golden coins with a note written in your handwriting. When the music's over, turn out the lights. And Wynn says, I want to know what you learned there. What you learned on that night that you stacked those coins, lit the candle, and left.
Well, I don't think I learned anything that night. It's more what I learned before that led to it. That I didn't really love her, and what's the point of carrying on and trying to make something that's not meant to be? Like, what's that doing for her? So I gave her due and went on my way.
And Wynn reveals another mirror. And it's Rowan stepping onto a ship for the first time. And, not mirror, window. And you see the next piece of that shows stories, him learning stories and him learning to do things on a ship, like hoist the mast and adjust the sails. And he starts to form a bond, and you see that in the form of a pirate. And he says, this is where you learn to fight.
I remember it well, Wynn. That's Rackham. He was just bloodthirsty and terrible, but just so funny when you got to know him. He'd tell you to fight like an animal or die like one. It was inspiring.
And Wynn says, but it's not where you learned to become strong. And then you see one whole pane appear. And it's Rackham. And he's dead. He's laying on the floor, the deck of a ship. And you see at the bottom of that, you see Rowan departing the same ship. And when he looks at you and says, this is where you learned true strength, whether you know it or not.
This of all things? And Rowan takes off his hat, the same hat that was left to him by Rackham. Like, this is strength?
The strength to go on. The strength to survive. It is easy to give up and fall into patterns and routines. You could have stayed on that ship and you would have lived a happy life, Rowan. I have seen it, as I have seen all things, all stories and all threads. And while I control them all, I don't pick for you. And I saw a life of happiness and family and children and love. But you chose the harder path, the more important path. And he shows another window, almost completing the circle. One space left. And in this window, he reveals you see Rowan jumping from ship to ship. And then you see Rowan sad, leaning over a book that he had seen before, a book that he had always known, and a book about Maconid culture. And the next pane is Rowan throwing the book and departing the ship. And we see Oxbane. And Wynn says, "It hurt. It hurts to be reminded."
To be reminded of what? The choices I made? No, I'm proud of all of them. I wouldn't be here without those choices. It might be a hard road, and it's probably gonna get harder, but look at this. Little boy born down by a river. He's been running like the river ever since. Now talking with a god. Tell me that's not something.
And Wynn laughed that low chuckle. And when he does, you see the leaves rustle and the brush move. And you see, I was really hoping you'd say something like that. Then you are exactly who I need you to be. And the last pane is revealed. And at the top of the pane is the loot. And while it looks like the loot you're holding, it's much more than that. It's larger, it's more powerful, it's transformed. And you see the next pane, and you see you. And you see Atlas, and you see Kristoff, and you see Sharinga. And then one more pane down, you see you, and Atlas, and Kristoff, and you see an army behind you. And then the last pane is dark. And Wynn says, "Not every story should be told. I can give you pieces and threads, but it has to be your choice."
Well, of course it'll be a choice. I mean, what's fate? Fate's something that only has power over those who accept it.
And for the first time, you see Wynn relax. And he says, "Fate's boring.
Fate doesn't hold any power here. We make our choices."
It's a predictable story. If I hold everyone to fate, I'm never surprised. That's why I like you, Rowan. You always surprise me." And he leans down to you and he says, "So, what is it that you want?"
I want a story. I want a storied life. I want immortality to be told for generations that know my name.
And Wynn looks at you, and you feel it. You feel legend and history and story. And he says, Are you sure that's what you want?
What more is there?
And he says, if you do this for me, then I will give you immortality. I will give you immortality not only through song and story. I will give you real immortality. Immortality that only elves wish they could achieve while their lifespans are long. They are nothing of the immortality that I give.
Where do I sign?
And Wynn smiles, and you see it in his eyes. You can feel it behind the mask. And he says, I'm pretty sure you already did. And he looks at the loot, and you see your hands clutching it subconsciously. And Wynn says, there's going to be a time where a tough decision has to be made. And your friends, your companions, they're not going to agree. But you're going to know that that's what needs to be done. I need you to listen to the calls and the sounds and the songs and the stories. And be prepared for when that time comes.
I mean, that's what we've been doing. I can't say that I understand what we've been shown or why. But I never questioned it.
He says, it's part of being so young, Rowan. There's much for you to learn. But if you're ready, and he extends a hand for you to shake.
I extend my hand, but before shaking, there is one more thing, Wynn.
And Wynn kind of steps backwards, not steps backwards, but kind of straightens up as if a little reproach. And he says, ambitious to negotiate with a god. I knew I liked you. What is it, bro? What is it that you see?
Well, when I find myself in times of trouble, do you think I could get a little assistance on this bridge with everything to get Turinga and Lance, Gid, and just everyone off safely and close that door?
And when waves a hand and the windows, the stained glass windows that had once provided light and perspective, disappear. They all vanish into small gusts. And you kind of see the wind sweep it away, but you don't feel wind. And then the world comes rushing back, but it's still silent. It's still unmoving. And Wind says, I don't think it's a good story to give you everything you want. And he begins pointing. And as he points with his tail and his hands, you see Kristoff and Alice and the two halflings, Sir Jodo and Giza. And you see Luna, and you see Lance. They all begin to grow color. Slowly, color washes over them. And Wen looks at you and says, that door is not mine to close, Rowan. But I will harbor safety for you and your friends. And you see them coming to full color, and as you do that, Wynn waves a hand and they pause, just shy of being all the way fully colored, and he reaches out a hand to shake.
No, all smiles, and I shake that hand. I've got a door to close if you don't mind.
And you feel it change. you feel your bond, your pact with Lynn form. And it's for someone like Rowan, who has never believed in gods, never believed in the same things that the world around him has believed, you feel something. What that is to Rowan is only Rowan's, but you feel something. And Wen looks at you and says, I can't wait to see the stories they tell of you. And when he says that, he looks up and to his right, almost like he's looking at something that you can't see.
Like, you mean the stories of us? You're in this too now.
And as you say that, Wen begins to unravel, and he slowly fades away, almost like he had never been there before. And the world around you melts away. All of the gray, all of the black, and all of the white. And all that remains is Rowan, Atlas, Kristoff, and friends. And that's where we're gonna stop.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's good.
It's pretty interesting. I'm very excited for where you have chosen to take Rowan's character development.
Oh yeah, like that's kind of why Rowan never really talked about his past, because he's just kind of been running from it.
Yeah, and I think that has, I don't know, man, that's perfect. I could not be more pleased with all three of the Lawful Stupid boys' character development, but I was really pleased with the way you decided to take Rowan's because of how mysterious it has been so far. I think this is going to be, and I could not have been happier with your choice, just because the God of Wen, or Wen, the God of Legends, is probably one of my favorite pantheons that I've built.
Oh, good! You got to bring him to life.
I know. Well, I was happy when you guys picked the artifact, and I was like, ugh, hopefully somebody does more than what I kind of forced on them for having an artifact. So.
I mean, honestly, I fully expected Devin to have Atlas just like, yep, I like this. And I'm like, all right, guess we're rolling with this now.
I thought so as well. All right, so guys, I really hope you enjoyed the one-on-one, because we're going to have a couple more at least, and I think we'll use your feedback to see if you want to see more, because one of the cool things about the episodes is it gives you a good taste of the boys and what they're getting into, but it doesn't allow you to really focus on one person too much without there being a lot of hopping around, or it just not being good podcasting. But I think doing these one-offs is really going to help delve into the characters, and you're going to see.
Like, honestly, I had a lot of fun doing this, but I cannot wait to see what Scott and Devin do. Like, they need to hurry up and figure their shit out, because I can't wait.
Yeah, what's worse for you is I know.
Oh God.
So. It's super good, and the cool thing is they don't know what you're gonna do, and so by the time they hear this, it's gonna be really good, because the listeners, this episode is gonna release on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, something like that, following episode 29. So currently, the other two Lawful Stupid boys think they're in a real bad situation.
Oh, so bad. Like, I still am not convinced that we're not in a bad position.
And they're not going to know about that until this episode is ready to be posted. So that could be a few more days. And I'm pretty excited about them suffering.
Oh, so, yeah.
It's pretty good. Rowan, is there anything you want to say to our
Oh, God. Thank you guys always for listening. I hope you enjoyed getting some of Rowan's backstory. Well, most of Rowan's backstory. And learning a little bit more about the character. And hope you're still having fun and enjoying the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, so thanks for listening. Obviously, you can check us out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, lawfulstupid.org, and hop in our Discord. We got a lot of people in there, and we've built this beautiful community. In fact, as we're recording, Kristoff, Shane, is actually running a homebrew for some of the listeners. So they're actually playing D&D while we play D&D. It's a really cool experience.
Like Discord's popping. Like I was gonna play in that, but I thought it'd be cool to get this done now, and then I'll probably jump in the next one. It'll probably be some of us playing too.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna pop in there and just kind of listen. Just because it's gonna be really cool. But thanks so much for listening, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. We are storytellers.
We are creators.
We are gamers.
We are dreamers.
We are players.
We are players.
We are players.
We are DMs.
We are nerdsmith.